Okay, here we can see the mother dog, all in infrared here, uh, preparing to give birth. She only started panting about a couple of hours ago and getting a little frantic. I think this is her third or fourth litter. Most of the time I'm just going to leave the camera running, but when exciting things happen, such as contractions, I will try to describe what's going on. Of course, it's all dependent on oxytocin being released from the pituitary gland, the posterior pituitary gland, which is actually an extension of nerve terminals from the hypothalamus, the supraoptic and paraventricular nuclei, the magnocellular neurons, and various accessory nuclei that produce oxytocin and vasopressin. The oxytocin has to be released in a sort of burst, and there are collateral branches within the brain that cause behavioural changes such as those that you see going on now as the oxytocin cells begin to start to fire more rapidly, that sort of dreamy state. Oxytocin incidentally inhibits consolidation of memory and also recall of memory, so both and other aspects. There was a contraction, you can see it, the whole back, another contraction. This means that the oxytocin neurons are coming into synchrony, but those rather weak contractions, which consist more of a skeletal-muscular response, pulling back, right, and in a sense preparing the pushing mechanism from the abdominal muscles. We're getting close. She's pretty quick when she does her thing. I would like to change the position of the camera, but I'm slightly concerned about doing it. I'm hoping we'll be able to see puppies coming out and I can describe more. But returning to the point that I was trying to make, the behavioural changes will precede the contraction. You see the lifting of the tail as well. The behavioural changes will proceed by several seconds as it takes the burst of oxytocin. And think this is just a few tens or hundreds maximum of nerve cells releasing their neurotransmitter, in this case a neurohormone, into the peripheral bloodstream in a burst, all synchronizing together. This has been recorded and some of the mechanisms elucidated. Of course, various factors can alter this activity. The stimulus for this, for the birthing process, which everyone thinks is up to mum, actually arises, at least in part, from fetal cortisol being released. And this is what signals the brain to begin this activity. I don't know if that is the reason why most births occur at night, since the circadian rhythm of cortisol or corticosteroid or whatever the major steroid is in any given species. I don't know if the circadian rhythm is such that it is secreted predominantly in the morning, such that most animals will give birth, at a different time as a response to the fetal cortisol elevation, differentiating it from the regular circadian rhythm. It's a theory. You can see she's restless and scratching around. This is to prepare a suitable bedding for pups, and also serves to distract her from the discomfort, and probably serves other purposes, increases her metabolism, perhaps activates glucagon systems so that she has enough energy to give birth, because generally appetite is decreased during the period before birth, often as much as 24 hours. Not in the case of this little piglet. She's a dog, not a piglet. Not in the case of this little one. because her name is Snooky. Snooky Snookums in the kennel of love. Another quiet period suggesting, thank you, the oncoming of a contraction. If we track back that video record, you will probably see somewhere between 9 and 11 seconds, which it takes for the oxytocin, again another mild contraction, and a third one. And sometimes the animal will vocalize. You saw the head lift up and the mouth begin to open at that point. Thank you. And again, that was 4. So the oxytocin neurons are beginning to synchronize to a greater and greater extent until they produce very powerful contractions and the birth process begins. The first puppy, one must assume, I'm not going to examine her at this point. I believe there are 3, but possibly only 2. I can't remember which side is which. It's a bicornuate uterus, and I think there are 2 on one side and 1 on the other. Experience suggests that, he said, being terribly immodest in his understanding. I'm going to try to shift the camera to improve things. I do not want to disturb her too much. And I have, as you can imagine, a lot of wires and things to cause me problems in shifting the camera. However, everything remained attached, that's better, including the infrared light that I have sitting on there. Infrared LEDs, it's an array of, I don't know how many by how many, but this is suitable for this. This is incidentally filmed with it's an infrared sensor specially fitted to the camera, replacing a regular one, and filming at 720 nanometers, okay? That's the cut-off range. We're seeing it in black and white. If I were to film at any lower wavelength, this particular sensor is set for 560 nanometers and produces interesting pseudo-color effects in nature, but that's not that is not what I want to focus on in this situation. I also don't want to be spending too much time chattering. What you haven't noticed to this point is that we're 9 minutes into the whole thing, is that there are in fact 3 other dogs, 1 male, 2 females, in the room, and they are keeping their distance, respectfully, one might say, in anthropomorphic, excuse me, I'm used to speaking dog, anthropomorphic terms. So that's that. Yep. And that is that. Of course, there's no absolutes to the behavioural activities. Sometimes there may be quite long pauses, sometimes not. In her case, she generally gets things over and done with fairly quickly, but you won't see necessarily, the exact same period between scratching and the exact same period between minor contractions and the same number of contractions. I think the notice went up from 3 to 4 and possibly 5 on the last occasion, I don't recall. They were very minor. And right now we have not had a contraction suggesting of any sorts, really, although the behavioural change is there, suggesting that the pathways or chemical or hormonal media is not sufficient to synchronize neurons as they were before, possibly because of too much disturbance with me moving around. Opiates tend to inhibit, or opioids, endogenous opioid peptides are involved, and they're of course part of the pro-opiomelanocortin system, which is related to adrenal steroid production, or not production, well, yeah, production, but release, which of course you recognise associates with what I was mentioning earlier about fetal cortisol. She's having a very quiet period right now, and I think I will respect that by moving away somewhat. And I think, yeah, having a little rest. And there may be breaks in the recording. I'll have to deal with that as I deal with changing batteries and so on. Now she's settling again. So, and that settling